Everyone, and welcome to Opera 101 with Cleveland Opera Theater. My name is Dean Buck, and I am the assistant conductor and chorus master for Cleveland Opera Theater. Opera 101 is for all ages. Each day we discuss one aspect of opera to help our listeners better understand the art form. If at any point you have a question, feel free to submit it in the comments or submit it via email, and it can be answered in a later Opera 101 session. Today we are going to be talking about the rehearsal process of putting. Usually, it all depends. Certain rehearsal processes can vary from a few days to over a month. I would say on average for Cleveland Opera Theater, it's usually about a 3-week process. We start with music rehearsals. And in the music rehearsals, it's address all the musical concerns right away. So we start with the chorus. Usually we want to keep the chorus and the principals separate because we're going to have to do a lot of work with both of them. So if you have everyone there for every rehearsal, a lot of people are going to do a lot of sitting around, and we want to make sure we're making the best use of everyone's time. So we start with the chorus, and we do about 3 rehearsals with them, and making sure everything is together and fine-tuned, and then we do the same with the principals. At these rehearsals, it's the conductor, usually the assistant conductor, a rehearsal pianist, and the singers. And during these rehearsals, we figure out how we are going to handle everything. It's a lot more involved than, is everyone singing the right notes at the right time? Is everyone singing the right words and the right rhythms? It's, where does this phrase go? How do we make this musical? Where are the singers able to take some time to do some more elaborate things? Where do they have freedom? Where do they not? Where do we all have to be really strict in time together? Where can we let the music breathe and do some more interpretive things? Usually we do about 3 music rehearsals with the principals, and then we go into staging. Staging rehearsals are run by the director, and the stage director basically does what a theater director or a film director would do, handling the dramatic aspect of it. Typically we have to do a bit more of these because you have to place everyone, then we have to try it, then we have to fine-tune things. Oftentimes the conductor isn't necessary, so the assistant conductor handles the staging rehearsals because there needs to be someone there to make sure the singers are not making mistakes musically, and because seeing the conductor is a huge part of staging rehearsals. Sometimes the director will put the singers in a place where they say, hey, you know, I need to make sure I can see the conductor, and any good director will adjust for that. And the relationship between conductor and stage director is very, very important in this, and usually it's very collaborative. We address these things together. A lot of times we talk through it before the director stages it, so everyone is on the same page. Once staging is done, usually for Cleveland Opera Theater, we do about a 10-day staging process. We move to the orchestra. Typically, you do 2 to 3 rehearsals with just the orchestra alone. That way, we can fix and adjust anything that's going on in the orchestra, make sure we get through the entire opera. Again, it's a lot more than, are we doing this correctly? Is this musical? Does this echo what the singers are doing? Because of this, it's very important that we have done a lot of music rehearsals with the singers first, so we can say to the orchestra, hey, this singer is taking a little bit of time here, so make sure you listen and watch, because we don't want to just blow through and leave the singer behind. So the conductor needs to know how the singers are handling everything when we get to the orchestra. So once we get with the orchestra, we get to what we call Sitzprobe, which is a German word, which literally means seated rehearsal. And this is the first time that the orchestra and the singers all come together. So you have the principals, you have the chorus, you have the orchestra. The reason it's called seated is because there is no staging. It is purely a music rehearsal to get the singers and the orchestra on the same page, give the singers a chance to sing through the opera with the orchestra before having to worry about staging, before having to worry about costumes, before everything. So we can make sure we're in a strong place musically before we add in all of these things. After Sitzprobe, the next rehearsal we call Wandelprobe, which means wander rehearsal or walking rehearsal, which is kind of almost staging, but not really. The singers are not worried about staging. It's still a musical rehearsal. However, instead of just sitting or standing on a line in front of the stage, the singers are roughly mimicking where they will be standing during the performance. So if they're singing a duet stage left, then that's where they go. If they need to move further up stage, they do this first while still worrying about the music. So again, it's not like, oh my gosh, we have way too many things to worry about at the same time. After the Wandelprobe, usually in that process, so sometimes it's before, we have what we call a tech rehearsal. And a tech rehearsal is where the design team basically gets the lights and the set and figures out where they need to change the set, figures out when the light cues need to change. These rehearsals are often very, very long because we have to keep doing the same thing over and over again. It's usually the assistant conductor and the rehearsal pianist. Sometimes the singers are there for that, but sometimes we have either the covers, which is the opera word for understudies of the singers doing it. Sometimes you have just people from the technical team that we call light walkers to mimic what's happening. The stage manager is very involved in this rehearsal, as is the director and the design team. Finally, we get to dress rehearsal. And dress rehearsal is exactly what it sounds like. It is a full run, uninterrupted, no stopping, with costumes, with lighting, with orchestra, with everything exactly like you would see in the performance. Typically, we do one piano dress and one or two orchestra dresses. Companies, everyone does it differently. A lot of it depends on budget. A lot of it depends on time. But by the time that you get to dress rehearsal, everything should be, all the issues should be solved. It should be, we just go. After the dress rehearsals, usually we'll do notes with the singers because we can't stop. So usually the assistant conductor will give the singers musical notes, and the director or the assistant director will give them staging notes. And if we need to talk through something, we will. And that's how we handle it. And after that, we get to opening night, and that is what you all see when you come to see the opera. We will in the future go into a little bit more in depth about how exactly these rehearsals work and what exactly we do, how we approach it. But we just wanted to give you all a brief overview as to how this process works. I'm not seeing any questions popping up, so we will sign off now. But if you have any questions about the rehearsal process, please feel free to email them to us. It could be something as, hey, I'm curious to learn a little bit more about the Sitzprobe. Like, how does that work? Or as a conductor, how do you approach going into the first rehearsal or the second rehearsal? Or for our stage director, how do you plan for a staging rehearsal? Or for a stage manager, what does the role of the stage manager mean in an opera? Any questions you have, please feel free to email to us and we will address them. Thank you so much for joining me for Opera 101. Make sure you visit clevelandoperatheater.org to sign up for our mailing list and view all sorts of upcoming Opera for All online events. Thank you again, and we hope to see you all soon.